Yes. Hello and welcome to the beatcomicsbeat.com. I'm Heidi McDonald. Today in conversation with Rob Liefeld, the man, the myth, the legend. Rob, thanks for coming back to the beat.
Heidi, I love the beat. I will promote the beat. I love the beat.
We
It's like a go-go song. I even told my daughter is at Coachella, and I said, "You have got to see the Go-Go's." And she said, "Dad, because of you, I know who they are. None of my friends are." So we got the beat. Heidi, I'm here. I love it.
you're here. Okay. Have you ever been to Coachella?
I have not.
Oh,
My kids have done Stagecoach, Coachella. I just watch as a parent, and thank God I'm not there.
do
Uh,
they go? Yeah, do they go to Comic-Con?
they have been to every Comic
So
Con possible.
So they've done it all because I
Yes.
hear a lot of people say, like, Coachella is its own thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Last
well,
year
better.
I saw all their videos and all their pictures, and I don't want to be out in that dust. I'm old, Heidi. I'm old. Young
I
Rob,
know.
maybe. Old
I
Rob. Where's my recliner?
I do not want to go to Coachella either. I do not, even though they have so many great bands. Well,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
no problem.
Cut that out. Um, well, let's get to why you're here today.
Yeah,
And I'm not even you're launching a new venture, right? And what is your
um,
new venture? I'm just going to let you describe it as
yeah,
only
Heidi.
you
So,
can.
so I was counting down the end of my time with Marvel even before I felt contentious about it. I knew that I would be wrapping up, and that I really feel, Heidi, I just, I've been around a long time. I've watched other peers and people that I'm tremendous fans of. And I think going into year 62, if 5 years from now I'll be 62 years old, I feel like that'll be probably the perfect time to kind of put it all down. My eyes, hands are still good, but my eyes, I didn't used to wear glasses. I didn't,
Well, the
it's
parts start to go, but
that's it. That's it.
I'm a little ahead of you on the path, and the
Okay.
parts start to go, and you're
That's
like,
it. So this is part of my 5-year plan to finish with just focusing on everything in my catalog, and it takes us back to the launch of Image Comics, Youngblood. When I was done, when I put down in February and I was done with Marvel, I was looking for a release window for Youngblood, and it like literally, I go, wait, April 16th, 1992 was when Youngblood launched. I could potentially make the window if I do it in a specific way. Not a traditional means was not going to be available to me. I talked to Eric Stevenson in Image. I mean, from a solicitation to orders to like that's just not available to me. And I've been doing a lot of direct to consumer. I've been dealing directly with the customers because Heidi, here's the big secret: the people that matter the most in our business are the customers. They are the ones that lift us up. They are the ones that carry us. If they are not coming to your store, you don't have a store. It's the customers. So with this success, I decided, well, I'm going to do this with Youngblood. And I called up Ryan at Golden Apple. The Leibowitz family, the
mhm,
legacy of the Golden
right.
Apple is a big deal in Southern California. And I said, will you host me 33 years to the day? And he
Mhm.
said, yes. So then I was able to build my strategy. And Heidi, I set about to draw 32 pages of a brand new Youngblood comic, so Youngblood hasn't been published in 6 years. I have not written and drawn Youngblood, a story of Youngblood in 16 years. So it's a great, reunification. And I've always talked about the early days of Image, Heidi, and I think you can,
Well,
add
I
whatever you.
mean,
But when
they're
it's
legend now. I mean, they're literally like legend. I mean, I was just at WonderCon where, Jim and Todd were doing this whole,
yes,
so
were you at that panel?
I did not, I could not be at the panel because I had a panel pretty much the
No,
same time.
there
So,
was a lot of conflicting panels. I downloaded, I signed on to get a live,
mhm,
feed
sure.
of the panel. So because I'm that interested. But what you go when you go back to the first year of Image Comics, Heidi, there was no there's no fans for Youngblood or Spawn
Right.
or
Right.
Wildcat.
Well, yeah,
They were.
yeah, I think that's really one of the incredible things about what you guys did is that you launched all these new characters And, and it wasn't just one, it was like a whole you all had your own universe, and Spawn, Bedrock,
And,
your team, I mean Supreme
yep.
and everybody. And that's never been done again. It's never ever been done again.
And it was this weird, Heidi, I went through 7 years in, 10 years in, 20 years later. I thought, well, it's going to be replicated. It's going to be replicated. It wasn't. But the truth of the matter is, what were they buying? They were buying Todd McFarlane #1, Rob
Mhm.
Liefeld #1, Jim Lee #1. They just, there was no, like, they're just buying into what we had to share for them. And then those characters became really this tight bond. I mean, I am a little, I'm somewhat flattered, also a little frightened about the amount of people who've told me they're flying out to this. I guess I didn't really know that there would be such nostalgia. But I do joke that my fans who are 13 years old add 33 to their age now. Add whatever you
Yeah.
were, and they are excited. And look, Image Comics is a badass, kick-ass label. It set out to do exactly what we sought to do, and that was give creators the very best deal. And that's, and immediately Jim went about setting up his Wildstorm. I went about setting up my Extreme catalog. Todd has his Spawn library. And that's all because we made that move when we made that move. For me, these Youngblood characters, uh, I can be honest, when I draw them, they take me back. And I feel like the X-Force was kind of the 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 test subject, and I perfected what I do best with Youngblood. I think these characters when they're together, when they're on a page, and so I and as we know, I was not interacting with them. I didn't know that I ever interact with
Well,
them because they were somewhere else for
well,
5 years.
now, Rob, if you talk to me,
Yeah,
the problem is that, I have lots of, I am a student of comics history,
of course.
and can we talk about that? Can we talk a little bit
Talk about
about Youngblood?
which
And
part.
it's, well, just like, yeah, you did not own Youngblood for a long
No, no,
time.
no. Yeah, here's the great thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I Because of Image Comics, I was able to create something that
Hmm.
I sold. Like
Hmm.
like Youngblood was mine to sell. In the late 90s, with Scott Rosenberg, we had our divorce, and we had a draft of characters of which he got a certain allotment. I got a certain allotment.
Hmm.
And we worked together seamlessly for almost 20 years. And then he informed me in 2019, and it was not contentious. But he's like, "Hey, Rob, I'm gonna license Youngblood to this other entity. I can't speak to the other entity because I never spoke to the other entity.
Hmm.
I did not.
Hmm.
I would not interact. I
Right.
said, "Hey, I'm gonna have to step away then. I will have to step away." There were no threats. There were no like anger. It was like I'm sad that this is the direction, and I believed maybe I don't see these characters again. Maybe I don't interact with them. Um, so they were in another licensor's hands. And it was Eric Stevenson that called me. Literally, I was at CinemaCon 2024. I was there for the Deadpool Wolverine thing, and Eric Stevenson was trying to reach me. I walked out of Caesars, out on the main strip, and Eric's like, "Hey, have you talked to Scott Rosenberg in a long time?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "He really wants to do something with Youngblood, and that window of that period is over." And I'm like, "Great, I didn't know that." And really, Eric helped facilitate Scott and I talking together. And Scott's like, because here's the other thing that comes with old age. I don't have time for drama. Like
Right. Right.
we do it. You want to do something together? Yes or no? Yes or
Isn't
no?
that the best that's really the best part of getting older. It's like all these things that you held on to,
Yeah.
like when you were younger, you're
So
like, ugh,
so
ugh,
yes.
who cares?
I don't have any animosity. It's either it's like, are we at the solution side of this or not? If not, I have 20 other things to distract me.
But is Scott still involved with the project at all, or?
Scott is I speak to Scott every day,
Okay.
and we are probably at the best. I believe, and I joke with him all the time. I believe that because we are more veterans now, old age calmed both of us down. I have great talks with Scott. We laugh out loud. He's obviously his own cat. He has his own, what do you call it, journey through the
Mhm.
comics industry. But the truth of the matter is, when we were looking for an outlet for Youngblood, Malibu just said yes, 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 yes. And at the time, I was
You're talking about back in the 90s,
back in the
back
90s
in
when
the
we launched
original
Image
times.
Comics,
Yes.
and Malibu signed on as our distributing partner. And then immediately a year in, we said, "Hey, we're leaving you.
Hmm.
You've made all this money off of us, getting the percentage that you're getting off these sales. But we have a history there, and look, part of it was I had visited Malibu a couple of years prior, and I was just, Heidi, when you grow up in Southern California loving comic books and you know that the big two publishers that you look up to are on the East Coast. I mean, I maybe had visited DC and Marvel twice by 1990. And so I went to the Malibu offices, met all the guys. Hey, there's a comic book publisher in Southern California. And look, Todd had wanted to go through Dark Horse, and I had to kind of make my stand. I did not want us
My
going.
God, what might have been? Good Lord.
Well, trust me, they
Mm.
had what was becoming their Legend imprint.
But there would be no Image Comics
I don't
if
believe
you'd
so.
gone through Dark Horse.
That's correct. That's
Right.
correct.
Wow.
So look, yes, I talk to Scott every day. We have a great look. Our first conversation was a lot of fun. I think maybe the 5 year timeout was the best possible what was the best possible thing. I didn't touch Youngblood for 6 years, and no Youngblood came out
Mm.
because I told people I'm not associated with it, so don't expect to see nothing of me will be reflected in
Well,
this.
I know
Yeah,
you're not mentioning who the third party is in
I
this
won't.
deal. And yeah,
But
I
you
understand
can.
that. And I understand you won't. So I'm probably will when I do the intro to
Yeah,
this on the beat,
yeah,
I will probably describe it's another
sure.
fairly contentious person in comics history. Is that person involved anymore, or they
I do
got,
not. I have no interaction.
I understand.
Have
Yeah.
had. I literally have zero interaction. Have had no interaction. And what
You're
Scott.
just as well. You're just as well.
Well,
I'll say
well,
that, hopefully.
as Scott as Scott he said, we just want to treat that period from his perspective. He has to treat it with respect. He cut that deal, but
Mhm.
it was never involving me. And now on the other side of it, it does not involve
Well,
me.
well, first off, I want to say I ran into Scott last year. Actually, I was getting an
Yeah.
acai bowl, and it was very funny because he had been looking for me and he heard them call, Heidi, your bowl is ready.
Ha ha.
And I ran into him, and I will say Scott seemed to be in a better place than he'd been in a little bit, right? So it's good to
Yeah.
see that he was, we had a really nice conversation. And so I want to go back just a little bit though
Yeah.
to um in 19, I mean, honestly, this whole time we're talking about is so uh it's so historic, and now that we're looking back at it with 30 years
Yeah.
hindsight, it's fascinating to put it in perspective. And
Yes.
I mean, you have your own observations history kind of
I do.
podcast, and I'm starting to work on some history projects because I realize I'm not getting any younger, nobody's
And,
getting
and,
any
and
younger.
Heidi, you know what is really important to me in that podcast? And Heidi, the weird thing about that podcast, I started it out of complete loneliness in the pandemic when everyone was
Mhm.
weird. No
Right,
one could
right.
congregate. People were even stopping to. I wasn't even. We weren't even talking on the phone to some of my friends because nobody had anything to talk about. Nothing was going on. But over time, because it's important to me, and many magazines that you worked on, Amazing Heroes, Comics Journal, because I kept all of them, and because I read directly from them, when people stop me, like I went to WonderCon the Sunday of WonderCon, and I walked the floor, and Heidi, what the number one thing people come up to me, they approach me, dozens upon dozens. Hey, Rob, how you doing? I love your podcast. I
Yeah.
listen to your show. And then I go, why? Why do you love it? I want to know.
Hmm.
And they said, because you bring the receipts, because of the history that you share. Heidi, I only read from memos with dates on them, magazines with dates on them, exchanges, and most people said we love the insider look. We love the look
Hmm.
beyond kind of the spin, right? because I'm just sharing with you. I give people facts. So I hope that you do, and you bring your receipts and you bring your facts, because people love that. Because,
Yeah, they
oh my
do. They do.
God.
But it's not even me. I mean, I'm sort of just going to facilitate some other people to tell their stories.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
because as you know, there's just some incredible stories out there.
there
So
are.
I want to circle back a little bit though
Do it.
to because I think yeah, what I actually had Todd stop by and we talked to him a little bit and um at
For when?
WonderCon. At
Okay.
WonderCon, and so that we put up the video. And one of the things he said that was a little bit like kind of close to the circle was like we were talking about Diamond, and he just said, I guess it was Image that kind of started that whole thing with Diamond going,
Yeah.
becoming exclusive, and which has been kind of a topic. But anyway, I'm just
Well, but
I'm trying to
and I can tell you, being in those rooms, that was the most pressure cooker 2 weeks.
yeah,
Because
yeah. Well,
Larry Martyr every day would say, the whole world is waiting to see who we pick. They're waiting to see who we pick.
mhm,
Because whoever we
yeah,
pick, the other falls.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
was
yeah.
very, I can tell you that that was the most like, boys, big boy pants on, belts buckled. So
Right.
I
And
remember.
now here we are now with where Diamond is.
Yeah.
But I don't want to I want to talk about it. I want to go just a little bit to you in 1999 when you did sign a deal with Scott, and like that meant that you didn't work on these characters for a long time.
No, 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 no. Scott and I went into business together
Yeah.
immediately in 1997.
Right. Okay.
We broke up in 2000. But Heidi, I did no, no, no. Youngblood was
Mm,
continuing to be published because he
okay.
said, I will give you the publishing rights.
Okay.
So we and the shocker is when Eric Stevenson called me in, I think 2005, and said, "Hey, will you do Youngblood at Image again?" And I said, "I'd love to. That's perfect." But I had done some
Okay.
side hustles with Youngblood and these characters
So
prior to that.
you never left it behind. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at because
No.
I see you on Twitter a lot, and
Huh?
you talk. You're pretty much the last comics person left on Twitter. But
Is that true?
I know it is, but I get it. Engage. We go where follow the engagement. I
Yes.
do it myself. But you do talk a lot about creators' rights. You talk a lot
Yep.
about all of that stuff with the perspective that you've had, and I mean it's I mean, I guess it's like there must be some emotional journey there for you for having created these characters when you were so young
Yep.
and working with Scott, but also, then there's another period where you don't really have control of the character. And,
Yes.
now, I mean, good for Eric. I mean, that's great that Eric Stevenson, didn't Eric work for you back in the day?
He was my editor in chief at Extreme Studios. So
And
that
how old was he? Like, how old?
young 20s. How old was I?
Yeah.
25.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
like
Like
you're
we're over.
25, you hire this
Yeah.
24-year-old kid to be your editor in chief, and
Yep.
we're all running around at the old, WonderCon at the Oakland Hyatt or whatever it was,
Yes.
throwing paper
Yes.
airplanes off
Yes.
the roof. I'll never forget
Yes.
that night.
And that was done at Extreme Studios all the time with
Right?
much larger airplanes that would land on the freeway and cause giant swerves in front of Angel Stadium. And I said, "This has got to stop. I didn't know this is what you guys were doing at midnight. You can't do this." Like the craziness going on at these studios, right? I mean,
Right.
it's a bunch of history. It's a bunch of memories. Um, but here's the deal. Like in that period when we had that draft, I mean, I drafted titles with huge fan followings as well. It's just there's no getting around that Youngblood was the biggest.
Hmm.
And Scott having the first draft was no doubt going to put forth and get Youngblood. It was a foregone conclusion. But I did. Youngblood was published during the 2000s. Joe Casey wrote Youngblood. We had Chad Bowers. There were different runs. But really, what I learned, and this goes back to the Rob number one, Todd number one, Jim number one, the fans, because I've talked about this with Larson, with Kirkman, with Stevenson. I've talked about it with Todd. The fans of that time love these characters the most when we do them. There
Hmm.
is no divorcing that because they associate the most exciting period. Some of them, they will tell me this, Heidi. I did a lot of touring in the last 10 years, and no matter where I went, they would say, oh man, that 1992, that Image was the best time of my youth, including Robert Kirkman, who drove 3 hours to see Image creators, and none of us were there because we weren't supposed to be there. But it was a vague, and I guess it was the creative team, but behind Boof and the Bruise Crew, and Robert will tell the story about how he had to try not to look disappointed to his mom, who he had convinced to make a 6 hour journey because Image creators were going to be there. So these these characters resonate, and they resonate the most when the guys who created them.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. It's
So
a real the
so
real connection. The connection. Yeah, for sure. Um, do you so what so to get away from, I mean, of course I'm fascinated by this outset, but what creatively excites you about being back on Youngblood?
uh everything I've talked about,
Mhm,
these characters, like Heidi, I went in and I looked at Jim Valentino 30 years ago. I'm sorry, for the 30th anniversary, published a book called The Image Timeline,
mhm.
the the official Image Comics timeline. And I think I was scared to look at it. And I went on. I told Eric Stevenson I gave Image their Kindle money. I got it, boom, on my iPad, and I had the best time. And remembering, and you just cannot get around the fact, because the first year, because see, what I hear is I hear Todd at his WonderCon panel, with a very spotty memory, saying things that are just not logistically correct. Like, and
Well,
you
it's
go,
the Tado vision.
okay,
Tado
well, it
vision.
was very important that Valentino get everything,
Mhm.
lined up. For instance, Todd referenced in the WonderCon that Jim confirmed that he would be a part of Image Comics, as he was holding his Jim Lee was holding his 1 year old, or his baby. And I'm like, whoa, 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 no, 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 no. Jim couldn't come to the Image Comics tent in Chicago because they were having that baby. Wildcats was solicited. It was
Right.
coming. These timelines, that is not
Well, it's a great picture, though.
well,
He's a
even though it didn't
storyteller. He's a
happen.
storyteller. Come on.
Yeah, well, I like my stories to kind of have some.
Well, I
Okay,
know, but yeah,
so the
I
thing is,
think.
I'm looking at Valentino's timeline, and remember, Heidi, there shouldn't have been an X Force #1. I think Sven Larson could tell you that he's still at Marvel, and he will tell you how much he and I worked behind the scenes to convince them to do X Force #1. And X Force #1 was, again, a bunch of characters that had only existed for 16 months.
Mhm.
And one person on one of my social media said, "Are you trying to say like this is like has a special importance to it?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm pretty clear I'm saying that. Cable did not exist, but for 1 year prior, okay?
Right.
Suddenly, he and Deadpool and Domino, they're tearing up the charts. We get the #1. It comes out, people dig it. And at that point, and I remember Alan Moore reading a quote from him during Swamp Thing, and he said, I took this book that nobody wanted, and I wrote my stories, and it became this great selling book. And then one day DC said, thanks, Alan. Get in the back of the car. We got this. We're driving it. And I remember I was in the studio with Jim Valentino in like 1988, and we were reading this Alan Moore interview, and it's like, this is what they do. This is what they do. And early on in X Force, I'm like, wait a second. Now I'm taking some directives, and I said, you know what? I believe there's opportunity here. And nobody believed that the opportunity existed more than me. Todd was very skeptical. He was trying to get a trading card, a sports card line off the ground. I have those cards. He sent me those cards. It was called the Front Row. He bought pictures of Wayne Gretzky and Brett Hull. He got all the way to the NHL offices, and they turned him down. The day after they turned him down, he said, I'll do this with Image Comics. But it talks about how Eric Larson and I came up with this. And then we were immediately working on Todd and Jim Valentino. And Valentino didn't want to come because I had known Jim for almost 6 years at that point. And this was the most commercial success Jim had ever had. He had a family, he had mouths to feed. And that's where I was solo Rob, no wife, no kids. I'm 23 years old. I'm like, I will run through that wall. I will run through that wall. You can watch me. Or I was the guinea pig. They'd be like,
Well,
let Rob jump off the cliff. It's clear. We'll jump too. So the
so
bottom line is Image happened. I'm looking at this timeline and we all finally assembled, and it really should not have come together in the way that it did, but we're fortunate that it did. And really, what was revealed was there's great opportunity on the other side of this.
mhm,
And so when you ask me what it's like to come back and do these characters and revisit them, and here's the special Golden
mhm.
Apple version, it's a blast. And I have a lot more stories to tell with them, and now I can, which is great because Heidi, I really didn't think I'd interact with these characters again.
What is the creative plan though? I mean, you say you wrote and
Yeah,
drew this issue, which
yeah,
is the
yeah,
first time you've written and drawn a Youngblood comic in quite some time.
yeah.
It's issue one. So
Yes.
how many issues are we going to see?
So in 8 issues, it's flipping over to issue 100.
Hmm.
It'll go to legacy
Okay.
number. It'll be
Why
100.
not?
Yeah, well, no, well, it's the 100th issue. No,
Oh,
Eric,
okay. All
and
right.
you know what? Eric Stevenson laid
Hmm.
this out for me.
Hmm.
Like, I love this guy. He helps me out so much. It says you'll be at 100 issues.
Hmm.
And when we came back and Joe Casey was writing the comic, he said, "Look, you're about to hit issue 75." So when we relaunched it, and again, Heidi, there was a lot of when Joe Casey, I think we did issue 71 or whatever writer was writing it, we relaunched with 71, not the most optimal thing to do. And that in today's market, that's almost unheard of. That's almost unheard of. But no,
Right.
Heidi, I'm planning on doing all the Extreme Universe characters. Youngblood is the flagship. These are the stories I'm going to tell. I have look, all I do is really do the stuff that I created, whether it's Cable or Deadpool, where I have equity in those. The only time I broke the I can't be a work for hire pencil jockey is on Snake Eyes because 7-year-old Rob Liefeld was like, dude, you can't leave G.I. Joe
Yeah.
behind.
I mean,
Like that.
we all
So
have our snake eyes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, but from here on out, I'm just doing this. I'm bringing it back. So here's the deal. April 16th, 1992 to April 16th, 2025, 33 years. And it is literally in
Yeah.
1992, it was that Wednesday
Hmm.
at Golden Apple was 4 days from Easter. You know how Easter always bounces around?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's 4 days
The,
from Easter
so
this
literally the
year.
planets have aligned
No, no,
again,
no,
once
Heidi,
again.
it feels like it. It feels like it. So, and I'm just so excited. Golden Apple. I love Ryan. I love the Leibowitzes. I am excited to get this in the hands of fans. Before we wrap up, the one thing that I would like to share is when with any of my direct to consumer comics that I've been doing and having tremendous success with, is I don't show anything on the inside. Not one page, not one panel of this. I will not. And all these incredible works behind me.
Mhm.
I walked into the store not knowing that Electra was back. I walked in not knowing
Right,
she would die.
right,
I did not
right.
when I turned the corner in my 7-Eleven and I was like, what the hell? Wolverine is old and the X-Men are dead? What's
Yeah, no.
the
Yeah,
element of surprise,
I'm
Heidi,
so
the
I'm
element of
so
surprise
glad
is
I had those days,
me
man.
too. Now it's, hey, everybody, look at the whole comic before you order it. Here's all 20 pages. And
It's
then
true.
so I am trying to bring an element of surprise that corresponds with my childhood excitement. We give away way too much of the farm nowadays. When there are way too many spoilers, I could not show you this comic,
Mhm.
and it's when it hits, and it's not going to hit and be in people's hands until the 16th. I've got all manner of different live streams that we have planned. There's copies you can get on my website, but the bottom line is it will be fresh. You will not know anything, and there is something exciting about that. We have lost. There wasn't a previews catalog, right? I'm not
Mhm.
even shopping in a comic store. The previews catalog, and I remember an editor from Marvel said the previews catalog is really hurting our ability to surprise. You know,
Yeah, well, we don't have to worry about the previous catalog anymore, so
Amen.
yeah.
Mic drop. Heidi getting out the knife. Heidi getting out the knife.
I
Stabbing the
mean,
here.
it's
Here,
a
here.
new
I'll get the
whole new
knife out.
era. It's
Heidi
just
with the knife.
oh no,
Stabbing
I'm
diamond.
just saying
Stabbing.
it's a whole new era. But
I love it. I love
I
it.
love I love this idea. I love this idea that you will only be able to read the Youngblood the new edition of
Yep.
Youngblood #1 from Image Comics from Rob Liefeld if by going to the store and buying the
Yes.
comic.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
that's a really innovative idea, really, incredibly startling and new. So we'll see if it works.
I think Heidi, it's going to work. It's
It
already
is. It
worked.
is. Rob,
If I could show you, our pre-orders are off the chain. People want this book. I'm so excited. This was the perfect. My instincts are strong, Heidi. The one thing
mm,
when I'm dead and they're all pissing on me, go. But that guy's instincts, he had something. I am a wolf out there in the wilderness, and I have to hunt and bring home my own,
got
prey
to
every day.
bring home that prey for
I
the
don't have an
nest. Bring
entire
the prey home
corporation.
to the
Yeah.
nest.
Okay, that's it.
Oh, Rob, thank you so much for your time as always, and good
Heidi, I
luck.
love it.
I love it.
You
I
are.
love it.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to your viewers. I'm going to tell your viewers, you don't know all that this woman has seen. You just don't know. I mean, one day I'm at the grocery store, I'm checking out with my kids, and I'm like, hey, Disney Digest. It's right there at the point of purchase. It's the TV guide when there was a TV guide. Heidi McDonald, Disney, Heidi McDonald, Marvel, Heidi McDonald, DC. You're everywhere. You're everywhere. I love
Well,
it.
but thank you so much, Rob. Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah,
We've seen a lot, and there's more to come, as we said in my
there's
other
more to come.
podcast.
There's more to
All right.
come.
Take care, and thanks again, Rob.
Thanks, Heidi. Take care.
All right.